You're using your intuition way more often than you think. You just don't realize it because it shows up disguised as tiny everyday nudges, and these nudges feel too normal to be spiritual. In this video, I'm going to share with you the examples of intuition showing up in everyday life, and these are real life examples with the names masked, of course. And once you take a note of these examples, you'll realize that intuition shows up a lot more often in everyday life than you think it does. You'll also see how you may be accidentally ignoring your intuition. Hello, everybody. I am Vaishali Nikhade. I am an engineer turned psychic with over 9,000 readings, and I show you how you can leverage the power of the spirit, aka intuition, and the power of the stars in order to be able to create momentum in your life. In this video, I'm going to show you examples of how intuition shows up in everyday life, and you may or may not be connecting with these intuitive nudges. As a psychic, I read lots of people, and some of them already know that something is wrong before they come to me, especially if it is the case of a layoff or of a romantic breakup. They just need some sort of confirmation to know or to understand that what their intuition is telling them is actually happening or going to happen in real life. So here's what you're going to learn in this video. When intuition prevents an accident from happening, when intuition warns you about deadlines, when intuition informs you of an upcoming event, when intuition connects you with the right person. So let's get started. The first point is when intuition prevents an accident from happening. So I think in this case, I'll take a general example for 911 when that happened, September 11th. There were a lot of people who got late to work because they overslept. So it wasn't that they overslept because they wanted to, it was their intuition kind of preventing them from going to work at the right time, because if they had gone there at the right time, essentially they would have been involved in that accident, and intuition really wouldn't have done its job in terms of preventing them from an accident. The other example is there were some people who stepped out of that building for whatever reason, and essentially it was their intuition which was kind of warning them in a very subtle way that you cannot be in the building, because if you are in the building, then you're going to get involved in an accident. So that is the example when an intuition is preventing an accident from happening. So we move on to the second point, which is when intuition warns you about deadlines. So the most common example for this is you have, let's say that you don't have auto pay set up for, let's say, your water bill or your electricity bill. And you have these bills coming up every month. And because of the way the cycles are for the bill, it is not the same date every month. It shifts a couple of days here, a couple of days there, and so on. So what your intuition will do is just a few days before the deadline or just on the day of the deadline, your intuition is going to tell you in a very gentle manner, in a very subtle manner that, hey, listen, it's time to go and pay that bill. And it may tell you once, it may tell you twice. And if you ignore it, obviously you won't end up paying the bill. And you're going to end up with a fine. But your intuition is going to say, hey, listen, I did my job. I told you that the bill was due, but you decided to ignore me. So that is how intuition actually will warn you about deadlines. So we move on to the next point, when intuition informs you of an upcoming event. Now this is a little bit of a special ability. It is called precognition, and essentially it is warning you or telling you of something that is about to happen, which has not happened yet in the physical realm. So for instance, you may think that, hey, I may get a call from this person, and let's say John Doe, and you haven't spoken to John Doe in say over a year, and then suddenly you get a call from John Doe. That was your intuition telling you about this event. Now, it can tell you about a good event. It can also tell you about a bad event, but essentially it is kind of giving you an advance notice that, hey, listen, this is going to happen. It can come in the form of a thought. It can also come in a dream. And it could also come in other ways, like maybe you're having a conversation with a friend and suddenly John Doe's name pops up and you haven't spoken to him for a year, and then you start thinking about John Doe, and then you get a call from John Doe. So intuition is one way you can tap into knowing what is going to happen or of an event coming up. Another way is by leveraging the power of the Cosmic Chronicle. And essentially, the Cosmic Chronicle is something I have developed where you can know in advance as to what to expect during the coming week. So once you know in advance what to expect during the coming week, and your intuition is also giving you that sign in some manner, essentially you have double confirmation. So it could be that just your intuition telling you, you may not be in a space to receive the information, or you may just discard it as trash. And you're like, oh, I haven't spoken to John Doe in over a year. Why would he call me? But having the confirmation through another means is just making things, let's say, a little bit more certain for you to know that something is going to happen in terms of getting communication from John Doe. So we move on to the next point, which is when intuition connects you with the right person. And I just recorded a video on reading the energy of the room, which I will also link in the comments below. But essentially, think of being in a room with, let's say, 200 people. And let's say there is like 20 groups. Each group is of 10 people, so 20 times 10 is 200. And you only have 10 minutes to be at this party. So how do you know which group do you need to go to? Obviously, you have 10 minutes, so you can't really go and spend even a minute in every group, because let's say you spend a minute and something happens and you kind of get into that conversation, you're spending more than a minute, so you lose the ability to check out all the other groups. So what intuition is going to do is it is going to tell you or signal you in a subtle manner, and maybe if it's a high importance situation, it may even signal you in a not so subtle manner. Like let's say a person from that group just calls out your name and says, hey, come here, kind of a thing. And essentially it's your intuition connecting the dots and telling you that, listen, you need to be in that group, because whatever your next step is in terms of meeting this person, you're going to meet this person in this group. Now, one thing you need to be careful about is coming across energy vampires. Energy vampires are not vampires with fangs, but essentially people, real life people who actually drain the energy from you. And these people can be everywhere and you can come across them in your everyday life. But by the time you realize that this person is an energy vampire, they would have drained a lot of energy from you, and obviously a lot of time as well. So I have a video on that. So that is the subject of my next video, and I'll see you in my next video.